Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Board Game Geek Show for August 2024. We've got a crowded screen today. We have a bunch of people that were all back from Gen Con recently. We've got Eric Martin, we've got Candace, we've got myself, Lincoln Damhurst. I said Candace, we got to say Candace Harris. We got Lainie, Faze. It's hard. It's one I don't always remember. And we got Beth, Heile, and Stephen Bonacore. How's everybody doing? Hey. Does everybody feeling okay since Stephen did not know that Nikki and I were at Gen Con. He's like, you guys didn't go. I'm like, we were there the whole time. We just did not run into each other. Neither of us have booths. And
it's right. And it's funny, last year, you were the first person I ran into.
Yeah, inside the hall,
I remember that. Inside the exhibit hall, which I was not allowed to get into early this year. I did not have an exhibitor badge, so maybe
we did run into a lot of folks on Wednesday. It was a lot. But yeah, so it was really a great event for us all. We had a great time, and we had the Hot Games Room, as we have been doing for the last... we didn't do it during the pandemic, of course, but for the past 10 years or so almost now, I think. Maybe almost, but it's awesome. It's a great
2017.
event. 2017. So it's an amazing event because we have most of the new games at the event, and it's a ticketed event. That's the way Gen Con works. But it runs from 10 a.m. to midnight every day except Sunday. So it's really awesome. And you have a chance to play the games that are already sold out. So it's fantastic. As a matter of fact, Lainie just got to Dallas today, so she's going to send us probably some games that we did not get. Anyway, but let's start off with we had debuted or re-debuted Geek Buzz, which is what we ran at the cons from 2009, where the audience, the attendees could go and vote on the games that they were excited to see. First year or two, we didn't actually do it that way. We did thumbs down too, which is not good. And but we changed it to only thumbs. And then we added, we had laptop or netbooks, I think is what we used back then, for people to come up to our booth and vote. And then we introduced cards that you could log in on your phone with a custom code and vote. And we continued that. Lainie actually got new cards that actually had the numbers printed on them, so we didn't have to sticker 2,500 cards. So that was a treat, believe me. And it was actually pretty successful. We had to get, it was getting the ball rolling. People don't know about it anymore. We did not have a screen up like we normally do. We will have one at Spiel. We will actually have a booth at Spiel. Beth will hopefully get us some of that information because I don't still know where we're at. But it's exciting, and we'll have things to sell at Spiel for once in a long time. And we had stuff selling through MeepleSource, right, this year?
Yes, we did. Yeah. So This is the plan moving forward for the BGG store, at least for Gen Con, is that MeepleSource will continue to be our sales partner. So you might see us in the exhibit book as having a booth in the exhibit hall, but you would go there and say, hey, wait a minute, this is MeepleSource's booth. Yep, that's right. That's correct. And they sell all of our Geek Up products for us.
That's cool.
So you can still get the entire set of every Geek Up product we have just about at their booth.
Yeah, and it'll be nice because a lot of folks in Europe, the shipping is terrifying nowadays. So they'll be prepared. There's not going to necessarily be a ton of things there. We'll have some shirts and Geek Up bits and stuff like that. But part of it is I won't talk about the rest of it. But it's exciting. People can actually get the stuff at the con if they would like to. And the Geek Buzz, so let's get back to that. Candace, what did we have on the top 10 games of the Geek Buzz?
So I guess the Geek Buzz was on the front page of the website BGG for during Gen Con, but by the end of it, and things were shifting every day depending on who's scanning the QR codes at different booths and everything. But in the end, I'll just share the games that were in the top 10. So in the 10 spot, we had Aquatica Coral Reefs, which I'm assuming is a expansion for Aquatica. Yeah, I've never played Aquatica. I don't know if anybody else has.
No, now we need to.
And then, because it got a lot of buzz. And then Slay the Spire, the board game, which I've just
Sold
been
out.
hearing really good things about that one.
Sold out every day.
Next, oh wow, yeah. And then in number 8 we had Undaunted 2200 Callisto, which is awesome. And that was that. I feel like most of the con that was closer to the top. But then number 7 is Intent to Kill. I don't know anything about that one.
Hobby World release.
It might be related to people actually in the hot games room, because we were giving out cards there, which was great. Give everybody a chance to talk about what they were playing and excited to play and stuff like that.
Cool. Then we had at slot 6, it was Neo Dreams. Slot 5, Captain Flip, which I still haven't tried.
Wow, that one's fun.
Yeah, it's good.
Slot 4 was Rock Hard 1977, which came in with like a ton of buzz. Anyway, just from the preview list. Yay! Yeah. And then spot 3 is River Valley Glassworks.
Oh, I have that one too. Let me go find it.
Yeah. I don't really know much about that one, but it looks like the Emmett Otter Jug Band like artwork or something. Something
Sure.
reminds me of that old Jim Henson Christmas special. And then Agamonia number 2 and Arcs number 1. And
yeah, that one was checked out all the time at the BGG Hot Games.
Yeah.
Definitely was.
Cool. That was there was many more. You can actually I don't know if the list is still live on the front page, but when it's on, it stays up there for a little while, and you can click and see what people were excited about. It'll probably get a little bit more activity at Spiel, because we will have the booth. We'll have a display that shows the top games cycling through. So it should you should check it out. It's really great to see, because that's where you see games that nobody had any idea. Well, we've mentioned several here that people didn't. Well, Eric probably knew, but the rest of us didn't know. And that's kind of what's exciting. You can find those hidden gems those hidden gems that we didn't know about. Kill. That's right. I remember that box. It's still sealed though, Eric.
It is. The publisher, Candace and I were walking around at the end filming like a goodbye, and the publisher was just like, Eric, take this. So I went up and
it didn't hit you in the head, did it?
It was not anticipated. He did not intend to kill me with it. No.
There was no intent to kill. Cool. So I don't know. We don't have a ton of stuff to talk about. I mean, we do have news. Let's get to that right now, because then we can talk about what we actually played maybe at Gen Con. Stephen, why don't we start with the industry news this time? Then we'll go to Eric.
Why not? So maybe we should just give the Gen Con stats that Gen Con did bring out. Why don't I just quickly go through those? It was a record-breaking Gen Con of over 71,000 people, more than 540 exhibitors, 24,000 plus events. They raised $31,000 for the Rose Gauntlet Foundation, which is really great. Yeah, and that actually adds to their total amount that they have that Gen Con has donated to charity over their years. Bringing the total up to $455,000, which is really great. And $77 million is the general economic impact for local businesses, which is very cool. They announced also, they mentioned that they will be in Indianapolis through at least 2030. And I'll mention one of the big releases that were there, besides the ones you saw there, of course, was the D&D Player's Handbook, 50th Anniversary Edition. So if Lorcana was the big thing of last year, and that was a whole debacle in and of itself, the D&D Player's Handbook set a new standard for how to do have 3,000 people buy it. So an orderly ticketed system if you wanted to get it. And allegedly now, and it came with a book plate and all this. So allegedly, these things are now going for quite a bit more because it's kind of collectible at this point. But on to other very interesting industry news. The Embracer Group, always getting into the news, which is Asmodee's parent company. Today, this is literally breaking news, today released their fiscal first quarter, and their fiscal quarters are different than calendar. They go from this first quarter is April to June, and they released their results. To say they are poor would be a vast understatement. So as a entity, a very large entity, their sales decline was 24%, driven by big drops in the PC console games, which is down 34%, and entertainment and services down 54%. Wow. And these declines are attributed to very tough comps and few new product releases. When we say comps, that means other companies who are compared to them were doing much better in this first quarter. But if there is a little bit of bright news to all this, Asmodee themselves, their sales were only down 5%. To an exact number of $292 million US. So that's we get, since they are publicly traded, we can actually see these numbers, which is kind of cool. And their US sales were actually even smaller decline. So it was overall the board gaming part of this entire thing was not that bad. It was their video games, their electronic games, and it was their comic book sales that were, the Dark Horse comics were the bad things that happened to them. Another very, very, very interesting story that came up just last week was that a man is using a CT scanner to analyze the contents of Pokemon boosters. Did you guys hear about this?
Yes, I don't even know how you would do that.
No.
So CT scanners are extraordinarily sensitive. They can see things, inside our bodies, right? So he's now using this to analyze what is inside Pokemon boosters, and therefore can tell you, you've got a 10 graded ultra rare so-and-so in this booster if you want to buy it and things like that. Wild use of the technology. My general thought on this is that Pokemon Magic are probably going to come out with some kind of wrapping that's not going to permit that to get through, which is then going to cause other problems because they might be lead coated, and then when you go through a scanner at an airport, bad things are going to happen to you. One last thing that I'll bring up is that there was drama in the chess world, and chess is a game, of course. It's not a game that many of us still play, but it certainly is a very big game in the world and in certain circles. On the heels of the 2022 scandal, where there was alleged cheating by a noted player, and the cheating came potentially in the form of how do I put this? Certain instruments inserted into parts of his body so that he could receive signals about the best possible future moves. I will let you think about where
Imagine
those things were. Yeah, you can imagine that. This time,
You don't want to.
you don't want to imagine. But this time's even crazier. So a Russian chess player named Amina Abakarova has been temporarily suspended from the Russian Chess Federation after she allegedly attempted to poison her opponent,
Oh, wow.
Amiganit Asamanova, with mercury at an August 2nd tournament. The Russian Chess Federation pointed Polygon, comes from Polygon.com, toward the statement from the president, and they have her on camera breaking open a thermometer, thank you. Thermometer onto the chess pieces and across where the player would be sitting to give mercury poisoning to.
Wow.
So while Russia may be accused of some bad things, they don't like murder very much unless it happens from some of the people at the top. So they have actually arrested her now, and she is in jail, suspended, that. There was also other things that I can't even mention that happened in the chess world.
The intent to kill was there.
The intent to kill is definitely there on that one. There's even some other things that are even worse that I won't mention on this show.
I mean, mercury poisoning seems like a slow death, so I don't know what she intended there. It was going to be way down the line that person would die. So I don't know. That's silly.
Yeah. Very, very weird ones. But that's it. Kind of a slow but interesting week there in the industry news.
Cool. Eric, what's your news? Do you have anything for us to share with us?
I do. I've slowly been posting notes from Gen Con with various announcements. Just went, let's see. There were a couple of things that were kind of interesting. Tikal Legend was just announced by French publisher Super Meeple. So Super Meeple had released a new edition of Tikal, originally debuted in 1999, one Spiel des Jahres. Super Meeple came out with a new edition, and now they're coming out with Tikal Legend, which they've only released a bit of information about, but it seems more like Tikal Upgraded, where you can play Tikal with the components in Tikal Legend, but this new game will also have a solo mode by David Turkci. And new components to allow you to do more stuff. And they're marketing it as a 25th anniversary edition. That's kind of the thing now, where everything comes back. It's got a new edition. It's got some extra stuff in it, right? There's the Take 5 30th anniversary edition. It's got new stuff in it. Everything's just new, something else to get people who already own the game to buy it.
Neat.
New. Very little information about it so far as to actual gameplay. But maybe that'll come in the future. Rio Grande Games, around the end of the year, 2024, will release Moon Colony Bloodbath, a new game by Donald X. Vaccarino.
I saw the cover for that.
Builder and an engine loser. So the idea is everyone's going to be building a moon colony, and you have a shared deck of cards that is going to have starts with 8 cards. You shuffle the deck, you turn over, move. Okay, everyone's got an action, and you choose an action from what's available. Okay, you turn over a twist, and there's an action in there that is randomized depending upon however you set it up at the beginning of the game, similar to his older game Nefarious, where you're going to have different twists to change the nature of gameplay. And then you'll have Trouble, where you turn over an event card. And that event card then goes into the deck, and it will keep coming back as you shuffle through the deck. And so there will be things, I forget all the details, there'll be famine, there'll be equipment breaking, there'll be leaks, there'll be all sorts of stuff that happen to break apart your moon colony over time. So you try to set things up to keep bad things from happening, and yet they will keep happening. And the game ends when someone has no more people left because your colony can no longer support people, or you've run through the event deck, and that's it. And whoever has the most people wins. Yes. So everyone is playing simultaneously. Again, similar to Nefarious, if I remember correctly.
Neat.
But yeah,
I think I have 2 versions of Nefarious here, and I've played neither of them, so that's embarrassing.
What? That's terrible. You've only had like a decade.
More than.
Maybe a couple more years.
Sure. Beth? Wait, go ahead, Eric.
I was trying to think. There's one other. Well, I will just say, Stephen was talking about Embracer, and one of the things Embracer owns is the Middle-earth Enterprises.
Yeah,
of course.
And Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth was a demo at Gen Con 2024. Yeah. It's going to debut at Spiel. And if you like Lord of the Rings, there are lots more Lord of the Rings games coming.
Oh
yeah, for sure.
There's a super secret one coming up that I was privy to as well.
I'm hoping it's the one I know about. It's amazing. Beth, what can you tell us about? Oh yeah, well we can't share. Beth, what can you tell us about our booth at Spiel this coming October?
Sure. So we already talked a little bit about how we do the store at Gen Con. We do it through MeepleSource. For Spiel, we haven't had a booth there since before COVID. So our last store was in 2019. Yep. And so this now 2024 is going to be the first time we're bringing back a booth as a full exhibitor at Spiel. So it's still going to be a little different than if you remember visiting our booth in years past. We're not going to be doing a whole video studio with just a little one strip of a store on the edge. It's all store. Like, this is going to be a massively bigger store than what we've run before. But we are changing up the kind of products that we're bringing quite a bit. So we're really going to focus on the things that are harder to get into Europe that would be more easy and more affordable for you guys to want to buy in person. So that would be Geek Up sets, which is kind of our flagship product. The Artist Series prints, we're going to bring the top 10 prints of those because that's a trickier one to ship. We're going to bring a bunch of t-shirts just because those are fun. And then we're bringing a bunch of our third-party partners like MeepleSource Bits. We work with a woodworker called Stratastrike. So we're going to bring some other non-Geek Up accessories too. So what you might be noticing that's missing is our other flagship thing, which is promos, which as sort of another industry news piece, as a very slow transition over the last 5-6 years, our ability to get promos is getting more and more difficult. It's a trend that stores and publishers are very slowly moving away from. Maybe they're building it into crowdfunding campaigns. Maybe they're just not doing giveaways at conventions. A lot of companies chose not to come back to conventions after COVID. There's a million reasons why, but promos just aren't as much of a thing anymore. Right. So we chose not to bring them for Spiel this time because we just don't have as many. So we'll see how that goes. It's an experiment. We can always change it for next year. So we'll see how that goes. You are going to see the rest of the team, of course, there. Lincoln and Candace and Eric will be wandering the halls, taking notes, videos, and photos. You might see some people chit-chatting on our booth, but it won't be a whole live streaming thing like we've done in the past. So if you want to come visit us at Spiel, we are in Hall 5 at booth F111, so Foxtrot 111. So we're right on the edge, right by Hall 4, so really easy to find. And we will have the ability to do... No, actually on the middle edge this year.
Midway, yeah.
So as Lincoln had mentioned, you will also be able to do Geek Buzz there, but you will have the ability to get a Geek Buzz card at many other publishers' booths. So once you get one card, that's yours for the rest of the show, and you'll be all set. But if you want to come buy stuff, come find us in Hall 5.
And so before we get to the games that we played at Gen Con, let's talk to the person who actually kind of ran the Hot Games room for us. What was exciting and how did it go?
Well, the first
Lainie,
part of this
I'm sorry,
is always
let's say
to
Lainie.
You're fine. The first part of this is always to just say thank you to all of the publishers who contribute games to the Hot Games Room. We send out a survey ahead of time, and people tell us what they have available for us. And we spend the Wednesday during setup day going through the hall and accumulating the games, and we get them back to the Hot Games Room. We punch and bag them and get them ready. This year, our total was over 520 new games. Wow. And then we also had that's not unique titles because we did have duplicates, but we also then got some games that weren't out because they might have been older games, but they were missing from our library. And the publishers generously contributed those to the library for us to bring back. So we had quite the haul this year. So we sell the tickets in the Hot Games Room for a 2-hour block. We start selling at 10 o'clock in the morning and we go all the way. Our last sale is at 10 at night because we close at midnight. We sell about 175 tickets an hour. This year, without having the generics counted, we already know that we're at over 5,200 tickets being sold. So this was a huge year for us. Not only did we have some of our evening sessions sell out, well, the afternoon sessions that were selling out, we even had a 10 a.m. session that sold out this year, and that has never happened before. So definitely saw a lot of traffic in the room. We were happy to see all the faces. I do have some checkout stats. You guys talked about River Valley Glassworks showing up in the top 10 for Geek Buzz. That was our number one checkout, partly because, for the library checkouts, they skew a little bit because you see people who are checking out games that don't take quite as long to play or that we have multiple copies of. That one, we hit both of those things with. So that's why we got it up there. Right. Let's Go to Japan was number 2. Landmarks was number 3. Arcs was up there with number 4. I think some of those checkouts, some people actually played the whole game. Other people just sat down and read the rules just to get an idea of something they wanted to check out. And then the gang also was played. So those stats from the library checkouts are posted on the Geek. Aldi posted them after we got home. The game right there. So, we brought all the games back here to the warehouse in Dallas, and we'll be getting them processed and getting ready for BGG Con and BGG Spring. And then we'll be at Spiel. Also, we'll be sending out another survey for Spiel soon that says, hey, you want to contribute some games from there too? And we'll be coming around the halls and picking those up and shipping them back for the conventions that we run. So thank you again to all the publishers who contributed. And we are hoping to see a few more of your games here in the coming months.
So one of the things that was really fun in the Hot Games Room, because I tried to go every evening at some point, but I had a couple guys that were sitting a table behind me say, hey, you know this game. You talked about it on the BGG podcast. Like, can you teach us how to play it? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, they're just like kind of, fumbling through the rule book. And then another time, someone didn't ask for help, but they had arcs on the table. And they looked like they needed it. So I was like, hey, do you need help? Because, I played this 10 times. And they're like, I think we're okay. wait, let me just ask you this one question. And then, but it's like, it's nice to have people there that you can talk to, and like someone and other people, you know, besides BGG team members, like will be happy to show other people how to play something, explain the rules. And I think that's really cool about that whole room and just game conventions in general.
Well, we
always usually once a year, we always kind of have like one funny story of like something interesting that happened. For this year, I was there on Thursday night. I wasn't working. I was actually playing The Gang, which we'll talk about. But the room was almost full, and out of nowhere, I hear this male voice swearing up a blue streak. It was so loud, and I immediately popped up because I put on my admin face, and I was like, okay. And it's funny, as soon as they saw me stand up, they're all like, and I was like, do you mind keeping it down a little bit? And they're like, oh yeah, we're so sorry. I'm like, do you mind me asking what you're playing? They were playing a trick-taking game. They were playing Sears catalog. I was like, oh no, I'm sorry. No, it was Rebel Princess. And Rebel Princess. I was like, what happened that caused such a reaction? Good Lord. It was the most exciting game of Rebel Princess I think has ever been played. They were hilarious and very good-natured. They never made a peep again. So that was definitely the best funny moment of this year.
Well, we had a friend that, our friend Dwight and his son really were wanting to play Arcs. And they went over to a table where somebody was playing or getting ready to play, and were watching, and the people asked them if they wanted to join. And they were super excited because they had scheduled tickets to go in at 10 a.m. and they didn't go. And I'm like, well, that was your chance to get Arcs. But they thankfully got a chance to play it, which was great. It's really nice. You know, there's a lot of folks that's only just maybe 2 people playing a game, and they're more than willing to have you join if you want. You should check it out and ask. I don't know that they asked, but he said people are nice. He sent me a text, said people are nice, and sent the picture. So that was great. So Candace, what did you play at the BG? During Gen Con.
BGG. Before I get into that, I did want to just mention one other thing that we did at Gen Con. I'm not going to do 10 games today, don't worry. But I did want to call out that we are in lieu of not doing those streams where publishers come to our booth like we've done in the past. I was walking around often with Derek or Matt or someone just taking quick videos of game overviews of anything that looked interesting. And there's one I have with Eric and I walking around at the end, and we're slowly rolling those out, and there is a playlist of all of those videos that we can link into this, so you can kind of get a look at some of the things we saw at Gen Con. And I'm planning to do the same thing at Spiel, so keep a lookout for that.
That new camera is great that they use.
It's really fantastic.
Really yeah.
And I feel like we're just barely scratching the surface on like what we can do with it. Yep. Yeah. But the videos definitely got better each day. That we were recording, we would like learn something like, don't pan that fast. Do this, don't less of this, more of that.
Slow pans. Always slow pans.
Yes.
Makes people nauseous if you go quick. Whip pans.
Yeah. But one of the games that I was really, really hoping that they were going to have at Gen Con, it was one of those games where it was on the preview list, and I'm like, is this going to be available, or is it just going to be demo? I had no idea. And I was so excited to find out that they were selling copies, and it is a game called Lone Wolves. This is a 2-player trick-taking game with some really neat area majority scoring. In the game, you have a board of different territories that lays in between both players. So you have 5 different color territories, and the suits of the cards match. So you have 5 different suits in the deck. And what's really neat is that when you play a card, it is a must follow, but the person who's leading can play a card into any of these territories on their side of the board. So I don't have to play a red card to the red territory. I can play it to whichever one I want, because basically at the end of the game, whoever has the highest strength on their side of each of these regions scores points. And the points vary there are tokens that are double-sided, and there are ways in the game to flip them too, which is kind of neat. Like maybe I'm going for something that's like, oh, this is going to be 10 points, and then my opponent is able to flip it. So, oh, well, I won that region, but I only get 6 points. But the cool thing is, so the other player will play a card and follow, and whoever loses, plays the weaker card, has to flip their card over to the lone wolf side. And so it's only worth 1 point then, but you get to take a scar token and place it somewhere. And these tokens are really cool. The game starts, every region has 3 of them, 1 face up, 2 face down. So you could like go for the one that's face up, or you could, just take a gamble and get 1 face down. They're all really good. And then once I have this, I'm able to play it on my side of the board into an area. And like, for example, this one says you score 3 points per 2, 3, and 4 value cards that are on your side. So this one is points. Some of them increase the strength, but basically the value of the card is the strength. So you'll total up my side versus your side and see who wins the regions. But the other thing is the trump suit shifts dynamically. So once one area clears out of these scar tokens, which are super cute and thematic, once one area clears out, that region, that color is the trump suit. And when I was playing this game at the airport, I was loving it, just reading the rules, because we like learned from the rule book, and I was like, this is so good. This is so good. And I was hoping, I have all these black cards in my hand, and I'm like, oh, the black region only has 1 more scar token. Like, this is going to be great. I'm going to get to lead and like crush it the rest of the game. But then something else happened, and a different suit became the trump suit. And then when the second region clears out, then that becomes the new trump suit. And in addition to it being the trump suit, you put these moon tokens on it that increase the amount of points for whoever wins that region. So it's just like, I would say not only like my favorite 2-player trick-taking game, but like just a really awesome 2-player game that I can't wait to play more of. Every single like time we're playing a card, I'm like, oh, wow. Like, it's just such a cool design. And you have 13 cards, so you just play 13 tricks and you score it up. The other thing I'll mention is the cards are numbered 2 through 7. And the 2 has a special ability where you can beat a 7 of the same suit. So if I have the 2 and the 7 of green, I know that like nobody's going to beat my 7, my opponent's not going to beat my 7. But if I don't have the 2, I'm hesitant because I'm like, oh, they could actually win this region and kill my 7. And there was a special ability with the threes too as well, maybe 3s and 4s, where you get to pop over, reveal one of the scar tokens. But yeah, it's just really, really solid. Lone Wolves, I know one of the designers is the designer who made Trick and Trade, which is another trick-taking game that I love with like market manipulation. But yeah, I don't know. Did anybody else get a chance to pick up Lone Wolves or play it?
No, not at all.
Nope.
No.
Get on
Sounds
that.
interesting.
I'd heard of it, though. I did hear of it.
It's really cool.
Beth, did you get to play anything? I know you mentioned something that you were playing.
I did, yes. Hang on, I'm going to see.
Oh, she's leaving us.
Show and tell.
There we go. So, crack, yeah. So I happened to walk by the Pegasus booth at the time when Eric and Candace were there, and they were having a really lovely conversation. And this was a bit of a surprise that this was showing up, and Tarsia was showing up at Gen Con, and led to an interesting conversation about that they are going to start focusing on releasing a new title exclusively at Gen Con, and then the rest would be published at Spiel. Eric might have more to say about that. But this is a dual publication from Deep Prince and Pegasus Spiel, and it is a Michael Kiesling game. And I saw it on the preview list and bought it very much at a whim, thinking, oh, I like those publishers. I like that designer. I have played this 5 times. I cannot stop playing this. Awesome. From a I tend to look at accessories. All these little, they look like wood. They're not. They're actually plastic, but they all tuck inside each other because you're making this mosaic floor, and you actually end up making this beautiful pattern for real. And then you put a little table piece in the middle, which I can't do in the palm of my hand. It is clean, it is fast, it is smooth, it is really deep, but super easy to learn. Like it hits all my favorite points. It looks pretty. It's really more of an abstract game, but the fact that that's usually not my jam and I can't stop playing this, I think says a lot. Because you are building this pattern with these pieces on a board that looks like an above view of a cafe. So like you do feel like, oh, I'm building a cool floor on a cafe. Like it does feel like you are doing something not abstract. So that was a real big surprise for me. It was not on my radar at all. So that was my big like, ooh, and now I'm totally hooked.
It's really, it's designed and developed by the same people that did Azul.
Yes.
It looked to me like I didn't get a chance to play it, but I am looking forward to playing it. But I think it's something I would really enjoy as well.
This is very much my personal thing, but I always appreciate when games have good organization, and it comes with this whole cardboard organizer. Yay, thumbs up, big love that. So, so if you want if you think Azul has good table presence, this you're like, ooh, that looks pretty. What is that? Oh man, this one has a beat. It's, where all the pieces interlock each other. Oh, so nice. So, yeah, thumbs up.
Stephen, what did you get to play? Oh, he's going to go on.
I guess I can talk about the gang with that beautiful spot varnish gold color right there.
You can tell the gang about the gang.
Tell the gang about the gang. Wow, look at that. So the gang is, and some people are going to like retch when I say it, cooperative Texas Hold'em poker. Yes, you are playing Texas Hold'em poker cooperatively, which you might say, like, that makes no sense until you play it. And I played this with poker players, and I played this with non-poker players. I've already played at least, 5 games of this, maybe 10 games of this at this point. Many hands of it. Plays with a standard deck. You're playing Texas Hold'em poker. And you got these really kind of cool, heavy-duty chips that come in the game. You put on the table the number of players. For each player, you put one of these chips on the table, and there's 4 sets of these colors. So you start with the whites. So everybody gets their whole cards. If you get, like, let's say a 2-7 offsuit, most poker players know that's a really bad starting hand. You're going to immediately probably grab for the 1 chip that's the lowest. If you got a pair of aces or some other good pair or 2 really high cards, you might grab for the highest one, 4 in a 4-player game. Here's the rub on this. So you have that in front of you, and then, like in Texas Hold'em, the flop comes, the next 3 cards. And another set of these colored chips comes out. Let's say the yellow ones come out next. And let's say it's a 6-player game. If I had that 2-7, all of a sudden on those next 3 cards, 2 7s show up, 2 7s. I now have a set 3 7s. I'm going to grab for the highest number chip out there. Now, just because I took it doesn't mean that somebody else can't just say, no, I have the highest. No, I have the highest. And this whole thing goes back and forth with people trying to figure out who has the worst hand of the players and who has the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, up to 6 players that can play this game. And it goes through a 3rd round, and it finally goes through a 4th round, exactly like you're playing Texas Hold'em poker. Then you, in turn, turn over the card. Oh, and I should just mention that you're going to leave these things in front of you so everybody can kind of see the progression. That's a very important thing. I took this crappy one, and then I said, no, I got the best hand. And then maybe I saw like 2 kings show up in that on the next couple of cards. So maybe I don't have the best hand anymore. I went down to 5 versus having 6, and then I stayed at this. So this is going to keep happening. And then in order of lowest to highest, people turn over their cards. So then a person with the 1 turns over their cards. Obviously, at the moment, it's the lowest hand. Congratulations. You've gotten that far. the person with the 2 turns over. If they have tied or gotten better than the next person, congratulations, you're doing well. The 3rd person, 4th, 5th, and 6th, depending on the number of players. If you get through it, congratulations, you've broken into the bank vault. Yeah, it's a silly theme. The theme does not matter. The gang breaking into. If you break into 3 bank vaults, you win. You got to do that 3 times, get it correct. And if you do it, every time you do it once correctly, a bad thing happens, like the police are on your trail or something like that. So a bad card happens. It's gonna hurt, like, in some way. Like, the person with the highest hand, the lowest hand, has to throw away their whole cards after they see the flop, and they have to pull 2 random cards. So all of a sudden, it turns things on its head. Really, really, really interesting game. I hope to get this played with some people who are non-gamers but who are poker players and just love this kind of idea. So really love this. It sold out every day at Gen Con. I don't know if they had somewhere between 100 and 300 copies a day. I don't know. This is Cosmos, very big company. Yeah. Don't worry.
400
this
total.
Will be in print.
400 total.
400 in total, so 100 a day they had. Okay, there you go. So they sold out 400 copies, which is quite a decent number of copies. And I don't know, I'm just going to bring this up again because I do have Sears catalog, but I won't talk about that. Maybe somebody else wants to talk about it. But great trick taking. All right.
The interesting thing about the gang is Corey Heath is one of the designers, and I haven't seen a Corey Heath game in a long time. He did Zendo back in the day, which is really a great game.
Zendo, wow, yeah.
So he's a great designer.
You know,
it's
one of the things I like so much about the gang is that poker, there's so much terminology, and because of that, it just, like, as I'm sure happens when non-gamers are talking with us who are in the hobby a lot, you end up feeling really overwhelmed. It can be kind of exclusionary by accident because you're like, the flop, the turn, the river, you're like, oh, I have a flush draw, and you're like, what is that? Right. Since this is cooperative, you can talk about it. You don't have to put, everybody helps. So here's a great example. I had my whole cards, the first 2 that were dealt to me. I had a 5 and a 7. They were both clubs. So I had a 5-7 suited. And then 2 clubs came out on the next 3 cards, which everyone can see. And I still said, oh, it's a 1. When I saw my first 2 cards, I'm like, oh, it's a 1. It's terrible. And then when I saw the next 3 cards, the flop, I was like, oh, it's still terrible. I'm a 1. And then the 4th card that came out was another club. I now had 5 clubs. I had a flush. So I was like, oh, I have the best hand. And we all talked about it. And someone's like, oh, Beth, holy cow, why'd you change your mind so fast? And somebody else said, there is a flush draw on the board. There's a potential for a flush. And somebody said, what's a flush draw? Like, I don't know what that word is. Oh, it just means that it's possible for someone to have a flush. And it just felt so welcoming because of that. It took that barrier down because you don't have to keep the face on, which is so critical to competitive poker. That was the thing. I was like, oh, where has this been my whole life? This is magical.
Well, it's pretty darn good. I will say it is challenging, though, because, when you play something like The Mind, everybody knows how numbers relate to each other from 1 to 100. But,
you'd hope, at least.
With poker hands, yes, you have the little player aid that's like, this is the highest, this is the lowest, but people, if you don't know the odds of something happening, it's sometimes hard to value your hand. And so, for example, I was playing a game where someone came up to me that I'm friends with and was like, oh, you need to take the highest number. And I was like, oh. And then his friend, and they had played the day before, his friend was like, yeah, that's great. So I was like, okay. So I took the highest number. My team's like, okay, she's got something great. And then it turns out it wasn't that great. But in their game yesterday, that was a great hand. Like, that was the best thing they saw. It was like 2 pairs. So it's like, it's just hard to value, but it makes it that much more satisfying when you do get it right.
Sure.
I like it a lot.
Eric, did you want to talk about something or talk about that game?
Sort of. I mean, it was interesting because Candace was sometimes bidding based on potential, where she actually had crap, but potentially it wasn't crap. But we were like, oh, she's got something great.
6 players.
Yeah, it was like, no, what are you doing? You have nothing. You have to tell us when you actually have something. Then you got to register it.
You got to register it by grabbing the chip correctly.
Yes.
Yeah,
But if you're
it's a
grabbing
game that's going to it's really going to reward multiple plays. Of course, it's going to be interesting to play it with poker players and non-poker. I played it with non-poker players, and they got it, and we won the game. It was pretty amazing.
Yes.
But
I mean, like the mind, yes. The more you play with the same people, the more it's going to gel together. Like initially when you play the mind, like
smaller
you're not
groups.
insane.
Yeah, to get used
We
to
had
it.
a group of 6 of us from all different like pockets and different experience. But my argument there, Eric, is like, what if everybody has a garbage hand? We cannot all take the one. And like, yeah, we can do this song and dance where it's like, oh, I take the one. Oh, no, I take the one. But it's like, what if we all have a garbage hand on that first two? Like, what do you do? Or do you take 5 like...
Well,
it is doable
then you start
because
to feel like, yeah, maybe my hand is not quite as garbagey as yours.
Right. Maybe right.
No,
I have a 10 in my hand, and maybe she doesn't have any card that's high, so I'm a little higher. So I'll take the next highest number. That's and you just keep going as you go down the. Oh yeah, it's definitely it should be challenging.
Yeah. That's all that. There's a rank of garbage. You got to find the right place.
Yeah, the rank of garbage. It's exactly right.
New tagline for that game.
Find the rank of your garbage.
Did you play anything, Eric, that you were excited to play?
Sure. I played the gang. Really liked it. Play some other stuff I'll talk about. Do a separate video for, like King of Tokyo Duel. Embargo ends on August 26th, so ideally drop the video then.
Yeah.
We'll talk about Castle Combo. This is a new title from Catch Up Games. All right, designers Gregory Gerard, Matthew Roussel. They are designers of In the Footsteps of Darwin, nominated for Spiel this year. And this is from Catch Up, who did Far Away last year. Far Away was like this surprise hit where it's a very cool, solitary style game where everyone's building up their own tableau, just with drafting, but it's very puzzly where you're trying to fit your cards together in just the right way. And Castle Combo works exactly the same way. You're going to build a 3x3 grid of cards. Cards come in brown and gray. You're going to be drafting those cards and putting them in this 3x3 array. And every card has an immediate bonus, like this one gives you a discount when you're buying in the future. And it's got an in-game scoring condition. You will get points, 3 points per red banner that's above or below this. Every card has a cost. It has 1 of 6 banners. Sometimes they have multiple banners on them of the same or different colors. And so you are just trying to puzzle together to get the best combo. Right? So 7 points if you've got 3 gold in a row, or 7 points if this card's in the bottom row. Right? 9 points if this banner is missing, and so on. And so you're just trying to puzzle everything together to score all your cards if possible. There are keys in the game as a second monetary suit. You need money to buy the cards, but keys will let you do various things or score points in various ways. And you're just trying to maximize everything. So it's solitaire-ish from the drafting, but then super puzzly, just like Far Away, as you're trying to maximize everything. And potentially you just fail on various things. So I find it way more engaging than a lot of the take and make games where you just like, you're going to get a few points here and a few points here and a few points here. But here you can just like get nothing, just because.
And like it.
Things don't work out. Well, you just got to take it. Yeah. You tried, you gambled, and you failed. Sometimes that's just how it works out. Or because someone did take the thing that would be perfect for you. Yeah.
Well, the other thing I liked about it, Eric, because we played it together, but when you're drafting the cards, you have like the villagers or the peasants and then the noble people. There's a pawn that's on one row, and you can only take a card from that row. And when you take certain cards, it shifts. So like maybe I take a card from the bottom row, and the card indicates that we need to now shift this to the top row. So the next player has to take a card from the top row. But one of the things Eric was talking about, those keys, you can spend a key, which is going to be a victory point at the end of the game, but you can spend a key to move that before you take a card. And just some of those like decisions were really cool. I liked it. It's like it wasn't like doing anything super brand new, but it was. We all really, really enjoyed it.
Yes, that's something I want to also do a video on in the future. Innovation is bunk. It's overrated. Who cares?
Innovation.
You do not need a new mechanism in every game. I find it just kind of gross that that's often the selling point of a game.
Wait.
just
Are
like-
you talking about
Never seen
innovation
it.
as in
Innovation
the
is his
game?
favorite game. That is not what he's talking about.
No.
Okay.
Innovation is the best, but also innovation is bunk.
That was what confused me as well. I'm like, what's he leading on to here? It's his favorite game.
You are a
Innovation
curmudgeon.
italicized
Yes.
is the best. But there's often just like, I came up with this new action selection mechanism that does something, and that's like the selling point. But like, what does the game feel like? Like, what am I doing in the game? That's what I really, I mean, this is very cool. And yeah, it doesn't do anything specifically new, but I found it really engaging, which was the same with Tower Up, which Candace and I did a video on. I think that's live. I forget.
Yeah, it is.
Yep,
It
yep,
is.
That's
Where,
live.
like, there is nothing new in Tower Up in terms of
but
you
it's
know,
a good
cool
game.
hooks and everything.
Really
but
good. Yeah.
it was the best thing I played at the show.
Neat.
So
Lainie, I know you were busy, but did you get a chance to play anything?
I didn't, but I'm taking notes of what you guys are talking about because we're going to have the punch party on Saturday, and then I get to play games afterwards.
Yay.
So I'm going to
Yay.
She gets a delayed reaction, delayed satisfaction
Yeah.
of the convention.
Definitely.
And everybody that shows up to BGG Con will get that delayed satisfaction as well. There's going to be a bunch of games there. I played a new game that we actually already had that we didn't even open until today, but we played Landmarks. Eric kind of spoiled it. He came up and spoiled it for us, but it's not really a problem. I'm just teasing. We actually had a really great time. The issue is it's a word game that you are trying to connect tiles. So it gives you a basic map. Let me see if I can slip this off real quick. It's a hexagonal map that has locations of. It's all nicely wrapped in paper, which is great. Let me see if I can get it out here. This is very tiny. You're not going to be able to see it, but you can. It has like the locations of resources, which they tell you swamp, fence, bubble, and that's your orientation to start your exploration. But there's good things and bad things. There's treasures. There's water. There's traps. There's curses. And what you need to do is you have this. You put the tiles on the board, and you have dry erase marker. And this is the detailed side. There's a planar side that will make it a little bit clearer. But you set that up in that manner, and you're trying to lead the other players from those sources to the elements, the exit. But there's elements to the game that you want to get. It would be nice to get treasure, which gives you more points when you finish. There's water that gives you more tiles so that you can extend your run and maybe make it to the end. But you want to get to the exit. If you run into a curse, though, you must get the amulet. And so you have to figure out how to maneuver around these things. And you're giving clues based on these words, swamp, fence, bubble. And then it will evolve as you add more words that match those. The issue that Eric had was you could get sprouted out on your own, and then you have 5 locations around it that could mess you up, and that's a valid concern. But we just went crazy and had fun with it anyway. Although we did play, I think, our first game incorrectly, and we were playing it with one of the publishers that will be localizing it. It was pretty funny that he got the rules wrong, but they got tons of games they got to deal with. But it's really great, and it was surprising to both Nikki and I what it actually was. We didn't have a chance to really look at it before we left. It's Floodgate, and it's designed by Danielo Valente and Rodrigo Rego. I've never seen a design by them, but that doesn't mean anything. I don't know everything. But it's really a quite fun game, and it's fun and challenging. It has a code names. It has there's
Clover.
Yeah, so Clover especially is where you can be out in nowhere land. And it also feels a tiny bit like Mystic Paths, which is you're not creating your own words. You're using cards that you have to connect you around. But it's not innovative. It's not innovation, but it is it is an evolution of a lot of innovations previous. It's really, really fun. Does anybody have anything to wrap stuff up here? Lainie, what do you want to play? What are you most excited about?
Well, I figure one of these days I'm going to have to play, is it Gnome Hollow? Oh,
Gnome Hollow?
Gnome Hollow.
Yeah.
I actually bought Gnome Hollow and trucked it back in our suitcase. So I figure maybe I'll play that one this weekend and give him a hard time that I got to play it before he did.
I tried to there you go. I tried to get it for Scott. He gave us a list. Well, it's funny. He later told me I didn't want you to buy all those games. He was excited about those games. I'm like, oh, okay. But we bought everything we could get, but we couldn't get that one. And that was another one that was selling out every day. Although we did find a store. So there was this one store in the middle of the hall that had like 5 copies of Gnome Hollow and like a bunch of stuff. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And it was a couple that had this tiny little store. And I wrote Scott, I'm like, should I get it? And he's like, no, it'll be okay. We have one in the library. But I bought everything else for him. And it was pretty great. We had a really good time. And there was just a lot of stuff. It was so... Steven said at the beginning it was like 71,000. I get Agamonia here coming. There were 71,000 attendees. It felt like it. Day one felt like Saturday.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite as crazy on Friday as it was on Thursday, but it was still quite busy. An amazing, amazing amount of people. And they actually did, like Steven said, a pretty great job of selling the games. My biggest takeaway was it wasn't sales at the very beginning of the opening. They had a scheduled time during the day sometimes that they would be doing that so that everybody had an opportunity to get in line and do that. Because sometimes I get frustrated. And I understand the people that are working the convention are fans, but I get a little frustrated with like the people working having first access to these events when most likely we're going to be able to get a game at some point in time. But anyway, what were you going to say, Lainie? I'm sorry. Oh no, Candace. She was going to pull up Agamonia.
Oh yeah, I was
She's doing
just
her
going to say
weightlifting.
like I'm weight training here. I'm very excited to play this beast.
Oh my God.
I have
that
the
is
same
big.
thing. I only did the cover. So we got Bad Karmas, which was one that we demoed during the year or two ago, and it's a digital board that it tracks everything. It's massive and heavy. I actually could not lift it, but it's from Tebaru and another company, and
As a librarian, I got to tell you, the trend this year of all smaller boxes for the games, except for the notable few, was fantastic. I was very excited by the smaller boxes.
Well, this one said in the letter that they sent us, it's Kallax friendly, and I'm like, it's only Kallax friendly if I stack 2 Kallax shelves in front of each other, and then it would fit. But it's massive and it's really heavy. We played a very alpha version of it when it was in development, and it was a pre-production copy, but it seemed really interesting, and so we're eager to try it. We've had it for nearly a month. We just haven't. Well, a little more than that because we've been gone almost 2 weeks, and then back since a week. So, but yeah, this was a great convention, and we hope that everybody can join us at Spiel, and anybody that's attending should definitely come by the booth and say hello. And then, of course, BGG Con in November. Steven, are you going to be there at BGG Con? You're not going to be there either.
Absolutely going to be.
Oh, you are going to be at that.
Absolutely.
You weren't at Spring.
War of the
You weren't at
Ring,
Spring.
baby.
Yeah.
War of the Ring.
We are playing War of the Ring, Candace. You're not going to back out again.
Oh, Candace is the problem here?
I'm not. It's
Oh,
going to be
she's a
my
problem.
first game.
She is a problem to me.
Well, there you go. That's the Board Game Geek Show for August 2024. Thanks for joining us. We hope to see you the next time. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.